When the first devices with electronic paper appeared on the market, many people believed it was the beginning of the end of traditional paper. Magazines and scientific articles presented a futuristic vision of books or newspapers made of electronic paper, which could be used to display new content whenever we wanted. Well, from the perspective of about 20 years, we can see that traditional paper hasn't disappeared from stores and is not going to. So, what made people so optimistic about it back then? Let's find out. Here's a video about electronic paper. Let's begin with a time travel to the 70s. In the Xerox Research Center, where devices such as the first PC with a graphics system or the first laser printer were designed, researchers also developed the first electronic paper called Giraldoand. How did it work? It was made of hundreds of thousands of microscopic beads. Each of them had two colors and was positively charged on the one side and negatively on the other. The beads were placed in pockets filled with clear oil so they could rotate freely, but it also prevented them from moving to one side and leaving an empty space. On both sides of the electronic paper there were electrodes. Thanks to them, the control system could turn the beads following the principle that plus attracts minus and minus attracts plus. This produced a two-color image. This solution had many advantages, for example, low power consumption because the display only needed power to change the displayed image. After the beads were arranged, they didn't return to the previous position, even if the power was off. Giraldoand was practically like a traditional piece of paper with black and white print. It wasn't tiring for the eyes because it didn't have backlight, it had great viewing angles, it worked well even in bright daylight, and the beads layer could be applied to different materials, including flexible ones. Unfortunately, like any other technology, this one also had disadvantages. Two colors were enough to read, but displaying vacation photos was out of the question. The time of changing images also left a lot to be desired, so you couldn't watch videos on it either. In fact, Giraldoand was very good at displaying static, two-color images, which mostly meant text. Unfortunately, although it was very innovative, today we will not find any devices with such displays. Well, the same can be said about many products of the Xerox company. Although they often used pioneer solutions, someone else took all the credit later on. In the late 1990s, another electronic paper appeared on the market. It was designed by the company E-Ink Corporation and was called E-Ink. Totally unexpected. Displays made by this company are still used in practically all e-readers that we can buy. But this solution is also applied in other places. What's the difference between E-Ink and Giraldoand? This technology is based on microcapsules containing positively charged white particles and negatively charged black particles. Each capsule is filled with transparent fluid which enables the free movement of the particles. Above and below the microcapsules there are electrodes. Their task is to initiate particles' movement inside the selected capsules. For those of you who like difficult terms, I can say that this phenomenon involving movement of charged particles in a single capsule is called electrophoresis. What's interesting, this may produce not only a black and white image, but also the grayscale by mixing white and black particles. Because I have a reader with E-Ink, I'd like to show you the advantages and disadvantages of it in practice. Compared to the AMOLED phone display, a E-Ink display works much better in bright light and is not so tiring for the eyes, even with the use of the reading mode on the phone. It is because electronic paper doesn't shine to our eyes but only reflects ambient light, like when we read a regular book. Of course, many devices with such displays also have backlight to read, for example, at night. But we may well turn it off and buy a bed lamp. Regarding viewing angles, I can't see a big difference between the reader and other devices I use. But to be honest, I do not often use smartphone, laptop, tablet or reader with 10 other people, so I'd better move on. The working time after one charge is really impressive. If I don't have the Wi-Fi on and I just read a book, the need to charge is so rare that I do not even remember how often I do so. Like Giraldoand, the display only consumes power at the moment of changing the image. And again, I have a nice difficult word for you. Such displays are called bistable. Unfortunately, like in the case of Giraldoand, the time of image changing is so long that playing videos or animations is practically impossible. An interesting thing is that during the image change, we can sometimes see that the whole screen is refreshed and only then displays the next image. Thanks to this, we avoid, for example, the situation that some particles don't change to the new positions, and on the new page we can see parts of the previous one. This is called ghosting. Another problem is colors. For many years only 2-color displays were available, but now the ink company is making great improvement. For example, it uses displays with filters that reflect 3 basic colors to a different extent, so they can be mixed to produce different colors. Actually 4096 of them. Sadly, the use of filters makes the image dull and it looks like an old printout in which the colors have begun to fade away. But it is not the only attempt to make a colorful display. For me, an interesting idea is specially prepared microcapsules with different color particles inside. In the newest solution proposed by ink, apart from white particles, there are cyan, magenta and yellow ones in each microcapsule. The control system precisely arranges the particles, mixing them, and screens the rest with white, so we can obtain tens of thousands of colors. But this kind of display is new on the market, so there are very few places where we can see it. Definitely it is a step ahead in terms of the quality of the image, but also has a problem with image change, which lasts at least a few seconds. As you already know the advantages and disadvantages of electronic paper, you may ask where it is used. One interesting solution is shelf labels. Unless we look closely, they look like ordinary paper labels, but the prices on them can be updated or changed directly from the computer that controls them. Shop assistants don't need to run around the store and place small pieces of paper on the shelves. In addition, e-paper can work on one little battery for a year or more, so there is no need to worry about power supply for all the labels. Another application is bus or tram schedules. You know how many times I was waiting at the bus stop and checked the timetable to see when the bus would come, but it turned out that the schedule had been changed, but nobody had yet come and replaced the piece of paper? This solution is also good because even on a sunny day everything is perfectly visible, and at night soft LED light is enough. There are also many other applications of electronic paper. Watches, phones and even wallpapers which can be used to change the interior decoration quickly. However, these things are not so common and are rather gadgets than an actual segment of the market. Of course, the most popular use of ink technology is still e-book readers and electronic notebooks. It's not surprising. Long work on one battery and a display that is not tiring for the eyes are a dream of all bookworms who don't want to carry a ton of books with them. On the other hand, I have to admit that many people who read shorter text on the internet or even books choose their smartphones. It's simply convenient because we always have our phones with us and screens are getting more and more friendly for our eyes. Finally, I will mention briefly that there are also other technologies of making electronic paper. For example, displays based on phenomenon of electrowetting. They work by means of movement of colored oil inside a small container filled with water because of applied voltage. What's interesting, this solution is one of a few that allow for fluent image change, so it makes it possible to watch videos or animations. Unfortunately, it also has disadvantages, and so far, for many years no manufacturer has been able to convince enough customers to survive on the market. Well, entering the market with such a technology is a big challenge because, honestly, if you can choose between a screen with millions of colors and high resolution, which uses a lot of power, true, but we can use quick charge, or energy-saving screen which looks like paper, is not tiring for the eyes, but is only good for very few uses and its display quality is much lower, which one will you choose? Well, seeing in which direction the technology and our preferences are going, nobody is announcing the end of paper anymore. Many statistical studies even show that people return to traditional books, and I often prefer this version myself. Thanks to regular paper, we can quickly jump from one part of a book to another, compare something, add a note on the margin, and the smell of a new book. The feeling when you turn the page. Only the book maniacs can understand this. Thank you very much for watching. If you would like to support my work, please see the description of this video. I would also like to add that if you are a student and feel that a huge roller called mathematics or physics is chasing you, I'd like to invite you to my private classes. You can find all the info in the description. See you next time!